Good morning, all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari. So in this video, we'll be analyzing the important articles for 22nd of April 2023. So despite hikes, small savings scheme rates, they are yet to catch up. So despite the successive hikes in the interest rates on several small savings instruments in the last 3 quarters, returns on the 5 such schemes, they are still significantly lower than what they should have fetched as per the formula adopted for them. तो बेसिकली यहाँ पे हम ये समझ रहे हैं कि इंटरेस्ट रेट इंक्रीज किया जाता है, बट जो स्मॉल सेविंग स्कीम्स हैं उनमें जो रिटर्न्स का जो इंटरेस्ट रेट है उसको इंक्रीज करने में कुछ टाइम लैग है, तो वो चीजें हमें यहाँ देखने को मिल रही है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, मूविंग ऑन, हियर वी आर सीइंग पुंछ में अभी आर्मी के ट्रक पर अटैक किया गया था. सो एनआईए टीम इट रीचेस देयर and combing on for the attackers. So militants, they first hit the fuel tank of the army vehicle with a grenade, which sparked a major fire and it resulted in deaths, according to the initial reports. And militant outfit behind the attack, it has not been identified as of now. So यहाँ पे हमारे लिए NIA important हो जाती है, नेशनल इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसी. उसका क्या स्ट्रक्चर है, क्या फंक्शन है, किस एरिया में वर्क करती है. So all of that is important for us. So airports pay, we are soon going to have the upgraded X-ray machines, which will like fast tracking the baggage check at the airports by end of the year. So the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, it has ordered all the major airports in the country to upgrade the baggage X-ray machines by end of 2023 so that passengers won't have to remove the electronic devices during screening of the handbags. So जब आप airport में, मतलब obviously when you are boarding an aircraft, तो आपको सिक्योरिटी चेक के थ्रू जाना पड़ता है. तो वहां पे अभी अगर आप अपने साथ कोई इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइस कैरी कर रहे होते हो तो आपको उसको अपने बैग से निकाल के रखना पड़ता है. एक सेपरेट बॉक्स आपको मिलता है, तो उसका मतलब उसके बाद वो स्कैनिंग मशीन में जाता है. सो अभी जो अपग्रेडेड मशीन इंस्टॉल हो जाएंगी तो आपको अपने इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइसेस बैग्स में से नहीं निकालने पड़ेंगे. सो दैट वुड बी ऑब्वियसली सेविंग द टाइम. एंड इसके अलावा यहाँ पे आप ब्यूरो सिविल एविएशन सिक्योरिटी के बारे में थोड़ा और फाइंड आउट कर सकते हो. यू कैन नो मोर अबाउट इट्स रोल एंड फंक्शंस. एंड मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, सो Mata Kaushalya Mahotsav, it is celebrated in Raipur and it is a tribute to the feminine power. So standing tall at the Lord Rama's maternal home, Mata Kaushalya temple restored to glory. So in this picture you can see. And apart from that, so it's the holy land where the Lord Ram traversed during his exile. So it embarks on a spiritual journey and experience Prabhu Ram's divine grace. So here you can see this is the temple, Mata Kaushalya temple at Chandakhuri in Chhattisgarh state. So this is, you can see the main shikhara of the temple in this picture, and below it obviously the shikhara is over the main Garbhagriha or the main sanctum sanctorium. So moving forward and coming to the editorial section. So here we would be looking at, so on every 22nd of April, we celebrate the Earth Day. So we should celebrate the recent decision of the Tamil Nadu government to establish a large botanical garden in the state is an important and welcome piece of news. So plants form the basis of civilization. Definitely, there's no life without plants, and humanity has had a long association with gardens ever since man learned to cultivate plants more than 11,000 years ago, marking the dawn of agriculture. So tradition of home gardens planned spaces around the homes to grow edible and medicinal plants. It has been noted in ancient texts and depicted in cave paintings, showing the antiquity of gardening. So you can see कि किस time से we are basically seeing कि गार्डनिंग प्रैक्टिस किया जा रहा है एंड इट इज डिपिक्टेड इन केव पेंटिंग्स में ऐसी कुछ पेंटिंग्स मिली है जहाँ पे वी कैन सी की गार्डनिंग like inside the spaces of your homes that is visible. उसके अलावा ancient text में इसका mention किया गया है. And definitely gardens, they capture a part of the earth's biodiversity for our enjoyment, and modern academic gardens, they often have hundreds and thousands of dried plant species for research. So obviously research में भी use किए जाते हैं plant species, and between the 15th and 17th centuries, European explorations, they led to the establishment of several academic botanical gardens where both the plant curiosities and research on plants were used to justify their establishment. So both for recreational purposes and research के लिए ये academic botanical gardens established किए गए through European efforts. And oldest of these is the Orto garden, which is there in Italy. It was founded in 1545, and the most well known is the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew near the London. So having a look at the gardens which are there in India. So the oldest of the Indian academic gardens, which is the Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Indian Botanic Garden in Howrah, Kolkata. It was established in 1787 under a different name back then. So the garden, it is spread over 109 hectares, and the city is also the headquarters of the Botanical Survey of India. So कुछ important facts हैं, and इसके अलावा the exact number of botanical gardens in India, it is not known, and the published number, it is like between 10 to 35. possibility है कि इस range के अंदर total number of botanical gardens इंडिया में है. So globally botanical gardens, they are important centers for the plant exploration, हो गया discovery के लिए research, as well as biodiversity outreach. So Indian botanical gardens, they have often lagged this wider perspective. So ये इतना बड़ा wider perspective Indian botanical gardens में missing है, and only a handful कुछ कुछ ही मतलब botanical gardens हैं, such as the Botanic Garden of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Botanical Research Institute, Lucknow, and the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, Jawaharlal Nehru, Tropical Botanic Garden, the Research Institute in the Palod. So ये कुछ हैं जहाँ पे plant exploration and education programs दोनों रन किए जाते हैं. तो ये कुछ on a lighter note, कुछ distinct topic था that we discussed, and 22nd of April को Earth Day हम celebrate करते हैं. So veto by silence. So center seems to be forcing collegium to recall its recommendations by inaction. So अब basically we know कि collegium system and government के बीच में tussle चल ही रहा है. Collegium system मतलब कि हम बोल सकते हैं जुडिशरी और गवर्नमेंट के बीच में देयर इज अ टसल. सो जो रिकमेंडेशंस, जो नेम के रिकमेंडेशंस कोलिजन सिस्टम गवर्नमेंट को फॉरवर्ड करता है, फाइनल अप्रूवल गवर्नमेंट ही देती है. बट अगर गवर्नमेंट नेम्स को वापस सुप्रीम कोर्ट को भेज देती है, कोलिजम को भेज देती है, तो लाइक दे ये सिर्फ एक ही टाइम पॉसिबल है. गवर्नमेंट बार बार नेम्स को वापस से रिकंसिडरेशन के लिए नहीं भेज सकती है. तो अभी क्या देखा जा रहा है कि जो नेम्स रिकमेंड किए जाते हैं बाय द कोलिजम, गवर्नमेंट उन पे कोई एक्शन ही नहीं ले रही है, एंड दे आर लाइक left as it is. So basically indirectly government, it is forcing the collegium system to change जो भी recommendation supreme court या collegium forward कर रहा है to the government. And in recalling its recommendations to appoint Justice S. Muralidhar as Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, Supreme Court Collegium, it has led the Union government, which did not act on the decision for around 8 months, have its way. And one can only conclude कि center, it has been deliberately refraining from acting on the recommendations, presumably to stall the transfer. And collegium, it has now decided instead to propose the name of Justice S.V. Gangapurwala as the judge of the Bombay High Court as the next Chief Justice of the Madras High Court. So reason appears to be the collegium's keenness to have a permanent Chief Justice for the High Court, as the senior most judge has been acting as Chief Justice for nearly 8 months. So basically यहाँ पे पूरी केस स्टडी दे रखी है कि हाउ देन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो रिकमेंडेशन दिया था वो चेंज करना पड़ा क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने 8 मंथ्स के लिए कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया. And so there are like recent instances of the government highlighting the political views of the prospective appointees to stall their evaluation to the bench. So in most cases, however, inaction, it is the main means to stall an appointment. So ये नया एक पैतरा है जो गवर्नमेंट अपना रही है. So a question that arises is whether such deliberate inaction on the center's part will be allowed to be the norm or not. So क्या आने वाले टाइम में ये नॉर्म ही बन जाएगा क्या नहीं, तो ये आगे पता चलेगा. So the last move will, no doubt, it will embolden the center to exercise a right to veto any appointment or transfer proposed by the collegium. So basically, by not acting, government एक तरीके से veto की पावर खुद को दे रहा है and यूज कर रहा है in case of these judicial appointments कि it is not acting, it is not like giving the final approval to the recommended names. So ultimately collegium system को जो names recommend किए हैं they have to reconsider it and वो finally दूसरा कोई name they have to recommend. So this is kind of veto in case of appointments or transfers. So notwithstanding the flaws in the collegium system, the present state of the affairs bodes ill for the independence of judiciary. Definitely जो independence of judiciary की बात आती है तो उसके लिए ये अच्छा नहीं है. And the system it is founded on the premise of judicial primacy. So जो appointment of the judges या transfer of the judges वाला system है through the collegium, that is based on the premises of judicial primacy. But यहाँ पे लग रहा है judicial की जगह executive primacy अपने हाथों में ले रहा है. And in effect, the present regime, it has appended the legal position that the recommendations, जो भी recommendations दिए जाते हैं by the collegium system, they are binding on the government if the collegium reiterates its stand with regard to any appointment. So अगर फिर से collegium second time फिर से वही names आगे forward करता है to the government, तो the recommendation becomes binding on the government. But यहाँ पे ये चीज भी violate होती हुई दिखाई दे रही है. सो गवर्नमेंट का कहना ये है कि जो न्यू आईटी रूल्स अभी लाए गए हैं, allowing the system of fact checking with proof they are in public interest. So this is what the government has to say. So the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, it termed premature the political satirist Kunal Kamara's plea challenging the constitutional validity of these the IT amendment rules 2023, and said key rules they are in public interest and they provide an evidence-based fact checking system for a mechanism to deal with the fake or the false or the misleading information resulting in riots, mob lynching, and other heinous crimes. So this is what the government said कि they are in public interest. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि they are violating the constitution या फिर they are unconstitutional. So that is the thing. And इस topic पे हमने broadly already proper critical analysis कर चुके हैं. Apart from this, अभी एक दो दिन पहले मैंने आपको बोला था कि very soon government would be coming up with a proper plan to evacuate Indian citizens from Sudan, because we know कि Sudan में situation अभी क्या है. So around 3,000 Indians हैं जो Sudan में हैं and वहाँ पे अभी कोई electricity, कोई food, कोई water नहीं available. So there is active fighting near the Indian mission in Khartoum. So जो Indian mission है Sudan में, Khartoum is the capital. So वहाँ पे भी अभी situation is very violent. एंड उसके अलावा हमें पता होना चाहिए कि जो भी अभी ये इवैक्यूएशन मिशन होने वाला है इसका क्या नेम दिया जाएगा. सो ऐसे टाइप के क्वेश्चंस दे कैन बी आस्क्ड इन प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन, सो दैट वुड बिकम इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर अस. So millions of olive ridley turtles, they make it to sea after Odisha beach hosts record turtle nesting. So we know that Rushikulya Beach, Orissa mein, it is estimated to have hosted around 6.37 lakh turtles from 23rd of Feb to 3rd of March. So millions of baby olive ridley sea turtles, they have crawled towards the Bay of Bengal after emerging from the eggshells along the Odisha's Rushikulya Beach in the Ganjam district. And this was the most successful mass nesting and hatching in the past few decades. So pictures mein dekh sakte ho, these are the baby olive ridley turtles moving back towards the sea. And apart from this, the IUCN status of these turtles, that becomes important. And whatever national parks and wildlife sanctuaries they are located in this district and along the coast in Odisha, all of them, they are important. And one of them is the Bhitakanika National Park. So it is there in the state of Odisha, and the Rushikulya beach, it is a unique phenomenon. It is not a wildlife sanctuary. Yet the जो turtles हैं, olive ridley turtles हैं, they feel safe here to carry out the mass nesting. And baby turtles, they started coming out from the eggshells from the second week of April this year. So that is the update. And so easternmost district, it gets Prime Minister's Excellence Award. So Changlang, अरुणाचल प्रदेश में है, इंडिया का ईस्टर्न मोस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट है. एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स अवार्ड फॉर एक्सेलेंस दिया गया है इन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन फॉर इट्स इनोवेटिव न्यू एज लर्निंग सेंटर. So it was like the deputy commissioner of the district जिन्होंने इस concept को पूरा like conceptualize this center and received the award given in the category of innovation. So it's a flexible, futuristic leisure learning space come library set up in a part of the Meow subdivision office to enable people from all age groups to learn and improve every aspect of their personality. So the space, it is designed according to the comfort, needs, and demands of the users, and it's a proud moment for all of us. So that's there. And coming to the world page. So Indonesia's main party names Java government as a presidential candidate. So there are soon going to be presidential elections in Indonesia. Apart from that, here Pakistan agency warns the cable operators against airing Indian channels. So चलता रहता है वहाँ पे. इसके अलावा so over 400 people have been killed, 3,500 are hurt in the Sudan fighting as per WHO. So the fighting means many families, they are trapped. Definitely बहुत सारे लोग trapped हैं, मारे गए हैं, innocent people have been killed with little or no access to वहाँ पे अभी electricity supply नहीं है. They are terrified of running out of food, water and medicine, and 9 children, they were among the dead people. So military wants civilian rule, says the Sudan army chief. So Sudan's top general on Friday declared the military's commitment to a civilian-led government, an apparent bid for the international support days after the brutal fighting between army and the paramilitary group derailed hopes for the democratic transition in Sudan. So जो fight चल रही है वो military और paramilitary forces के बीच में चल रही है, and military का कहना ये है कि they want a civilian rule. So that is the case. And apart from that, moving forward, so Taiwan, its supporters playing with fire. So Taiwan, its supporter indirectly China. It is referring to USA because obviously USA is supporting Taiwan. So Taiwan Strait में पूरी geography कौन सी different seas हैं and कौन से islands located हैं. So all of that becomes important from our examination perspective. So UN reports off the charts melting of glaciers. So जो expectations थी, जो forecast थी when it comes to melting of glaciers. So notice ये किया गया है कि beyond the charts, off the charts level की melting of glaciers हो रही है. So the world's glaciers melting, they are melting at dramatic speed last year, and saving them is effectively a lost cause. So this is like hit record highs, and the last 8 years they have been warmest ever recorded years, while concentrations of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide hit new peaks. So this is coming from the United Nations World Meteorological Organization. And Antarctic sea ice, it fell to its lowest extent on record, and the melting of some European glaciers was literally off the charts. So it's alarming, and things are basically reaching the tipping point. So tipping point अगर हम reach कर गए तो वहां से वापस जाना would be impossible. So वहां से जो भी impacts होंगे they would be irreversible. So sea levels, they are also at record high, having risen by an average of 4.62 millimeters per year between 2013 and 22, which is double the rate it was between 1993 and 2002. So sea level rise जिस रेट से हो रहा है वो रेट भी डबल हो चुका है. So record high temperatures, they were recorded in the oceans where around 90% of the heat trapped on Earth by greenhouse gases ends up. So 2015 में Paris Agreement हुआ जहाँ पे हमने देखा countries they agreed to cap the global warming at well below 2 degrees Celsius above the average levels measured between 1850 to 1900 and 1.5 degrees Celsius if it is possible. So यहाँ पे ही हमने अभी जैसे मैंने mention किया tipping point की बात करी. So अगर we reach that level तो उसके बाद things would be irreversible. Coming to the business page now, so demand is strong, inflation is easing. So a very positive and progressive statement. The demand भी increase हो रही है and inflation भी कम हो रही है with time. So rebound in the contact intensive services supporting the demand, monetary actions and supply side steps to slow the pace of retail inflation to 5.2% in fourth quarter of this financial year. This is coming from the central bank officials in the RBI's April bulletin. And now cast the quarter 4 2022-23 real GDP growth at 5.4%. So upbeat signals जो हमें मिल रहे हैं from the recent MPC meeting that we had. So aggregate demand conditions, they remain resilient in India, supported by a rebound in the contact intensive services. And so there are expectations ki Rabi harvest may will be receiving very good harvest, and fiscal thrust हो रहा है on the infrastructure sector. जो fiscal policy है that is focusing much upon the infrastructure जो हम capital expenditure बोलते हैं. We are seeing revival in corporate investment as positive sign. So corporate investment भी increase हो रही है, so definitely that is a positive sign. And government is focusing upon the infrastructural development on capital expenditure, तो उसकी वजह से demand भी increase होगी, employment opportunities उससे generate होंगी, and bumper Rabi harvest would also help in bringing down the food inflation. So e-way bills, toll collections, they have scaled new peaks, and CPI inflation slowed to 5.7% in response to monetary policy actions and supply side measures. So अब हम supply side measures की बात करने लगे हैं, वरना अभी तक it was just the tight monetary policy. क्योंकि चीजें समझ आ रही है कि अगर inflation is because of the supply side factors, so supply side measures लेने भी important है in order to bring down the inflation. So here we seeing a positive outlook. So innovative economy needs choices to process data. So we want all the innovators and startups to have a choice in accessing the best technology and pricing on storage, and thus we have changed the data localization provision, the latest version of the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill. So these are the words of the Minister of State for the Electronics and Information Technology and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So innovative economy, it requires multiple choices on where to process its data and what cloud offering to use. So adding that, thus the government does not want a situation where it mandates all the innovators and startups to only use data centers in India. So ऐसा कोई limitation government put नहीं करना चाहती है. So this is like कोई ऐसी hardcore condition नहीं है कि आपको सिर्फ data centers जो इंडिया में setup है वो ही उनके ऊपर ही आपको rely करना पड़ेगा. So we want to create a framework for every legislation that works, that allow it to evolve, and we certainly will not impose any hardcore data localization as a condition. So जो latest digital personal data protection bill आया है उसमें center has allowed the transfer of personal data to countries it notifies. So जो countries इस लॉ के अंडर मेंशन्ड होंगी वंस इट इज पास्ड बाय द पार्लियामेंट, इट गेट्स द प्रेसिडेंट्स असेंट, तो सिर्फ उन्हीं कंट्रीज में यू कैन लाइक send the data, transfer the personal data. And this was a departure from the bill's previous version, which had special localization provisions for the cross-border transfer, the sensitive and the critical personal data. So पिछला जो version था bill का उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा restrictions थी, but अभी the stance of the government has changed and it has said कि जो countries हम mention करेंगे, जो हम allow करेंगे, आप सिर्फ वहीं पे पर्सनल डेटा ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो. सो इफ द डेटा फिड्यूशरी सेज दे विल यूज अ डेटा सेंटर दैट इज डोमिसाइल्ड इन यूएस या जापान या कोरिया, that is permissible as long as the data centers they respecting the rights of the Indian citizens which was consented to and it has been agreed to. So ये सिर्फ तब तक ही एप्लीकेबल रहेगा जब तक जो डेटा सेंटर्स जो इंडिया के बाहर हैं they are complying and they are not violating the rights of the Indian citizens, and जो भी agreement हुआ they need to comply with that. So coming to the Mint newspaper, here we will be having a look at inflation may fall faster to 4% if there is no supply side shock further. And this is coming from Ashima Goel. She is a member of the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee. So उनका मानना ये है कि inflation 4% level तक बहुत जल्दी पहुंच सकता है अगर आने वाले टाइम में कोई सप्लाई साइड शॉक्स नहीं होंगे. So this was commenting on India's growth prospects for the current fiscal year. She said कि country has been resilient in the face of external shocks. So that's there, and certain high frequency data reveals growth slowing down, but given this due to like there was a question that was asked to her ki, given this, do you think MPC's forecast of 6.5% of the GDP for the current financial year, it seems over optimistic? So the growth forecast जो अभी है of the 6.5% of the GDP for this current financial year, she says it is lower than the Central Statistical Office's second advance estimate of 7%. So it does take into account factors reducing growth, and उसके बाद this is the forecast of 6.5% of the GDP. So economy, it has, however, shown resilience to the external shocks जो अभी हमें recently देखने को मिली. Recently अभी दो banks जो fail हो गए थे उसका India पे इतना ज़्यादा impact नहीं हुआ, which was themselves less severe than expected. So forecast feasible है जो किया गया है. Estimated demand leakage through the net imports that has fallen, and this is one factor contributing to the rise in the growth forecast from 6.4% last time to 6.5% now. So that's there. And inflation expectations जो बोला जा रहा है कि it would be like we'll be reaching this exact target of 4% for inflation would be very soon अगर like कोई supply shock नहीं होना चाहिए आने वाले time में. So if there are no further major supply shocks, it can fall faster since there is no excess demand or tight labor market driven second round effects keeping the inflation high in India. So main reason supply side shock की वजह से ही है कि inflation इतनी high चल रही थी. तो अगर आने वाले टाइम में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है तो इन्फ्लेशन कैन कम डाउन वेरी इजीली, क्योंकि और जो बाकी फैक्टर्स है लाइक टाइट लेबर मार्केट ड्रिवन कोई ऐसा इम्पैक्ट नहीं है या फिर कोई एक्सेस डिमांड नहीं है हमारी इकोनॉमी में विच कैन लाइक फर्दर ड्राइव अप द इन्फ्लेशन. सो दीज आर the things and different perspectives at the inflation front. Moving to Indian Express now. So CDC links India-made eye drops to outbreak of rare strain in the US. So कफ सिरप से related एक controversy हुई थी जहाँ पे it was being said कि toxic elements मिले हैं in the cough syrups जो इंडिया ने export किए to countries like Namibia, and उसके बाद this incidence of eye drops contamination आया है सामने जो हम export करते हैं USA को. तो because of usage of these eye drops जो इंडिया से export की गई वहाँ पे देखा गया है कि वैसे में rare strains develop हो गए हैं. So organism appears to have spread via contaminated point source. So three probes, they are going on in three countries. So CDC probe into the Chennai-based manufacturer's eye drops. It comes in the wake of a probe that it conducted into the death of 70 children in Gambia, and it linked four contaminated syrups which were manufactured by Haryana-based pharma company to the deaths, and एक और cough syrup था that was made by a Noida-based firm was linked to death of 18 children in Uzbekistan. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, it has told that the organism, it appears to have spread via contaminated point source eye drops की बात करें with possible secondary transmission among contacts in some healthcare settings. So जो outbreak strain है, that is VIM-GS CRPA, which is a rare strain of extensively drug-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginus bacterium, and it has never been reported before in USA, and it has been detected in 68 cases from 16 states, according to the CDC. So CDC's conclusion, it is based on its investigations at the healthcare centers from where the cases were reported and testing was being done. Moving forward and coming to the editorial section, because most of the news here are political. So Cheetah project, it overestimated carrying capacity of the Kuno Park, according to the Namibia experts. So Namibian researchers, they say that cheetah may fan out into the larger Kuno landscape dotted by 169 villages. So जो cheetahs Namibia से इंडिया लेके आए गए थे, उनको रखा गया था कूनो नेशनल पार्क, जो कि मध्य प्रदेश में है. एंड उसके बाद अफ्रीका से भी चीताज दे हैव बीन ब्रॉट हियर. सो जो बेसिकली कैपेसिटी, ऑब्वियसली बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स आ जाते हैं, एंड इट इज बीइंग सेड कि जो चीता प्रोजेक्ट के लिए कैपेसिटी एस्टिमेट की गई थी ऑफ द कूनो पार्क, दैट वाज एन ओवर एस्टिमेट. Coming to the editorial section, here we'll just go through the important articles. So the missing worker की अगर बात करें तो यहाँ पे it is saying कि there is absence of Muslim workers, Muslim women, Muslim women, they are absent from the workforce and it needs a policy response. So recent data tha on the higher education enrollment in the country, it has shown that there were more women than men from the Muslim community in the undergraduate courses. So Muslim community की बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, तो वहाँ पे men ज़्यादा थे than women when we talk about the education, higher education. And of the 1,000 Muslim students in higher education, 503 are women. So steady equalization of Muslim women and men in education, it should be lauded. We must realize it is against the backdrop of an absolute decrease of Muslims in higher education. So एक point of time पे ये भी देखा गया था, and the number of students from the community in higher education decreased to 19 lakh in 2020-21 from 21 lakh. And furthermore, while the ratio of the women to men in education, that has also increased, Muslim women, they are conspicuously, they are absent from workforce. So workforce में like higher education में तो number increase हो रहा है, but workforce में they're not allowed to work, या जो भी restrictions and challenges हैं, but they are absent in the workforce. So this might be due to a lag effect, but it does not mean that we can ignore the need for a bridge from education to employment. So if higher education तक they are reaching out to employment sector में क्यों नहीं जा रही हैं या क्यों नहीं जा पा रही हैं. So जो PLFS report है, it shows the 3 disturbing secular trends है जो witness किए गए हैं. One is that the female labor force participation rate, it has stagnated at very low levels in India. Second is women's employment is seen as a supplemental source of income, and that is only activated in dire times for the family. Third चीज है, the share of women employed in the unpaid labor has increased even for the highly educated women. So ये तीन major trend देखे गए हैं. These are really disturbing. So India needs more women in the workforce so that we can increase the size of the economic pie. And there are learnings from other South Asian countries. So बाकी countries की बात करें like Bangladesh. So वहाँ पे female labor force participation rate, it has increased from 27% to 36% in 2019. Given the low starting point for the Muslim women, we can witness tremendous improvements in our female labor force participation rate by focusing on Muslim women. So for this, we need to work on 3 levels. So solutions bhi de rakhe hain. One is ki the employers, they need to ensure that while they work on women's inclusion in the workplace, they also take an intersectional approach. So researchers, they are showing that Muslim women, they face significant discrimination in hiring at the entry level roles. So we must incorporate mechanisms to address unconscious biases in hiring. And apart from that, the government and the policymakers, they need to make those jobs available that women want and create ecosystem that are supportive of employed women. So ऐसा मतलब environment hona chahiye which supports women. So our families and society, they need to prioritize women's employment as a means for women to have agency, express themselves, and expand their sources of happiness. So मतलब सोशल एस्पेक्ट भी है, फैमिली का रोल भी है, सिविल सोसाइटी का रोल है, एम्प्लॉयर्स का रोल है, गवर्नमेंट का रोल है, पॉलिसी का रोल है. So the stereotype of men being the sole breadwinner of the family puts a lot of pressure on them, and women, they can be brought into the share, like they can be brought into to share this burden while men share the burden of the housework. So दोनों साइड से होना चाहिए. And as we consolidate the gains from our investment in schooling and education, we need to start working towards expanding and sustaining employment of women from all the communities. So we need to be secular over here, and the main thing is ki the share of females, so female labor force participation rate, that needs to go up. So USA training भी देने वाला है to Ukrainian troops on the Abraham tanks. So recently USA ने Patriot missiles भी supply करी है to Ukraine, and now we have the Abraham tanks also. So proxy war भी बोल सकते हैं इसको एक तरीके से, क्योंकि Western world obviously यूक्रेन को support कर रहा है, NATO country supporting Ukraine, and उनको definitely बहुत ज़्यादा help मिल रही है from these countries. So as per the World Meteorological Organization's report, 2022 में around 15,000 deaths record की गई in Europe because of unusual heat. So average global temperatures above the pre-industrial times, यहाँ पे अगर हम देखें and understand with the graph, so you can see it is gradually and steadily going up. So यहाँ पे temperature दे रखा है 2000 level से compare करें तो आज it is around 1.149% is the average global temperatures, which is above the pre-industrial times. So जो 1.4% वाली 1.5% डिग्री सेल्सियस वाली बात थी, 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस वाली बात थी, वो हम लाइक ऑलरेडी अचीव कर चुके हैं. तो मेन ये था कि या तो आप 2 डिग्री सेल्सियस या 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस से प्रिवेंट करोगे, टेम्परेचर डज नॉट इंक्रीजेस, बट 1.5 डिग्री तो हो चुका है. सो हीट वेव्स इंडिया में भी देखी जा रही है, फेब्रुवरी में भी थी ऐसी कंडीशंस, एंड after relatively cool March, heat waves, they are back in April, and जो deaths हो रही हैं because of heat waves, they are now being witnessed even in India. Coming to the explained section, this is very important part of Indian Express. So metro under the river. So trial runs, they are underway on the challenging western portion of the Kolkata metro east to west corridor, which is a 520-meter stretch of which passes under the Hooghly. So Hooghly river के जो river bed है obviously उसके नीचे ये tunnel बनाई गई है, and this is country's first underwater transport tunnel, and the corridor will significantly improve commuting on one of the city's most congested stretches. So it's coming soon. This is the picture you can see, east to west corridor of Kolkata Metro. एंड ये जो आप देख सकते हो हावड़ा ब्रिज, एंड इसके नीचे है ये टनल बनाई गई है, यहाँ से देख सकते हो, एंड इट इज लाइक here it is moving towards the Howrah Maidan, and it is the eastbound tunnel. So technological कुछ like क्या टेक्नोलॉजी यूज की गई है, क्या challenges आए हैं, they have been mentioned. So tunnels under the Hooghly, they have an internal diameter, सब mention करके, this is not so important. And so बहुत सारे ऐसे measures लिए गए हैं कि you need to make sure कि टनल के अंदर water inflow ना हो, leakages ना हो टनल के अंदर, and concrete mixes ऐसे use किए गए हैं which were composed of fly ash and micro silica. They have been used for these segments to minimize water permeability. So fly ash content था and micro silica. So ये properties पता होना चाहिए कि how do they help in preventing water permeability. So inner walls, they are of high quality of M50 grade reinforced concrete segments with a thickness of 275 mm each, and they are sealed together using a complex grouting process. So under the organic clay of the riverbed lies a layer of sandy silt. So the German-made TBMs, Christine, Prerna, and Rachna, they like bored through the layer below that, and they're described as firm to stiff, the clayey silt. And so challenge, एक और challenge था regarding like tunneling in areas with historic buildings like Dalhousie was a challenge, but not a single building in the Dalhousie area developed any cracks. So ये एक दूसरा challenge था, and they were successful in preventing it. So Assam and Arunachal agreement on border. So dispute क्या था, resolution कैसे किया गया, सब mentioned है. So history of the dispute. So 3 years before the Northeast Frontier Agency, NEFA, it was formerly called the Northeast Frontier Tracts, and the region that subsequently became Arunachal Pradesh, it was carved out of the original state of Assam 1954 में. A subcommittee which was headed by the then Assam Chief Minister Gopinath Bordoloi made a set of recommendations in relation to administration in this region. So in line with the recommendations जो भी दी गई, like the area of Balipara and Sadia foothills, it was transferred from Nefa to what were then Assam's Darang and Lakhimpur district. So after it was created in 1972, Union Territory of Arunachal Pradesh, it became a state in 1987. So Arunachal Pradesh पहले एक union territory थी, बाद में it became a state in 1987. It contended that several forested tracts in the plains that had traditionally belonged to the hill tribal chiefs and communities, they had been unilaterally transferred to the state of Assam. So resolution efforts लिए जा रहे हैं. Back then, April 1979 से a high-powered tripartite committee बनाई गई to delineate the boundary on the basis of Survey of India maps. So boundary dispute हो गया इस वजह से. And अभी recently we saw कि Assam Chief Minister and his Arunachal Pradesh counterpart, they have signed a memorandum of understanding over a long-standing border dispute between the two states. And Home Minister says that it's a historic thing that they have signed an MOU, and they have like there was dispute over 37 of the 123 villages was resolved on 15 July 2022 with the signing of this Namsai declaration, in which the two CMs agreed in principle over them. So that's the development from there. Lastly, we'll take up the Financial Express and the important piece of articles from here. So here we are seeing So remittances to India crosses $100 billion in 2022. So India has become the first country in the world to have annual remittances from abroad crossing this $100 billion mark. And according to the World Bank, private remittances or the transfer of money from NRI to friends and relatives in India, it has crossed the threshold in 2022 with an impressive year-on-year growth of 12%. So the country likely retained the tag of top remittances destination slot in financial year 23, which it vanquished from China. So number one position पे China आ गया था, but again India is back at number one. And the latest data indicates that the trend of sustained and fast-paced increase in the personal transfers to India, which was interrupted during financial year 21 due to the pandemic, has not only resumed, but it has also been buttressed. So the surge in remittances is at a time jahan pe FDI flows across the national border seems to have slowed. So FDI flow में हम slowdown देख रहे हैं, but प्राइवेट ट्रांसफर्स रेमिटेंसेस की बात करें तो वहां पे इंडिया obviously massive growth देखने को मिल रही है, massive inflow, and we have hit this record level of $100 billion. So India is the first country in the world to beat this mark. So national interest is supreme, Prime Minister says, as the world is saying कि India's time has arrived. There is no time to waste for the bureaucracy, and the country has put its faith in you. Work while maintaining that trust. So national interest should always be the basis of all your decisions. Again, यहाँ पे remittances की बात की गई है. So remittances to India जो level रहा है, you can see, and the source is from World Bank. So gradually you can see it was increasing up till financial year 20, but pandemic की वजह से it declined, and now we have crossed this level. So top 3 money sender countries कौन सी हैं जहाँ से basically इंडिया में maximum amount of remittances आ रहे हैं. So maximum हमें कतर से आ रहे हैं, that was highest in 2022 was from Qatar, and the level was $727 million. उसके बाद ऑस्ट्रेलिया से हैं 593 million. Then we have Saudi Arabia. So it is important to evaluate monetary policies effects. Obviously, it is very important. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप बस रेपो रेट को इंक्रीज करते जाओगे एंड टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के थ्रू आप इन्फ्लेशन को इजीली कंट्रोल कर लोगे. आपने जो स्टेप्स लिए हैं, जो डिसीजंस लिए हैं, उनके क्या इम्पैक्ट रहे हैं, उनको इवेल्युएट करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है in order to get the efficiency. So this is what the RBI's bulletin says, and there is a need to evaluate the effects of the monetary policy actions carried out so far on the overall economic activity. And we need to evaluate the effects on underlying economic activity as past monetary policy actions work their way through the well-known lags associated with the implementation of the monetary policy. So definitely a time lag रहता है when we see the real effects on the ground. And disinflation achieved, so RBI bulletin said in time, enduring price and financial stability will strengthen the foundations of the economy and provide a fillip to growth. So the state of economy article is authored by a team led by Deputy Governor Michael Patra. And in the latest monetary policy, जो April में हुई थी, the central bank decided to temporarily pause the repo rate hikes. So recent monetary policy committee की जो मीटिंग हुई थी उसमें रेपो रेट को इंक्रीज नहीं किया गया. It was a pause, and government has mandated RBI to ensure that retail inflation remains at 4% with a margin of 2% on either side. So exact inflation target is 4%, and अगर range की बात करें तो plus minus 2% and 4% becomes 2% से 6% is the tolerance band when it comes to the inflation. सो अगर इंडिया में हम टोटल हाइड्रो पावर इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी की बात करें तो currently the country's total installed power generation capacity, it is around 4,16,059 megawatt, of which total installed hydropower capacity कितनी है 11.3% है, that is around 46,850 megawatts. So 11% is coming from the hydropower projects that we have. So Tamil Nadu, it passes the bill for flexible working hours. So state government's move is to attract investment in key sectors, and but abhi ke liye this would be applicable only to certain sectors. So बहुत सारी ऐसी multinational companies हैं which are seeking the flexible working hours for their proposed manufacturing factories in the state. So in that context, Tamil Nadu has come up with this bill, and it's a hub of major manufacturing companies in India. It has the highest number of factories and industrial workers in the country. So MSP wheat purchases increases 13%. And wheat procurement, abhi ke liye it is at the lowest levels in the past 4 to 5 years. So 12.45 million tons they have been procured by the government. And after a sluggish start due to harvesting delays which were caused because of the unseasonal rains, wheat procurement by Food Corporation of India and the state government agencies, it has picked up the pace. And इसमें MSP it has increased by 13%. So UN Secretary General Anthony Guterres says that a death sentence for Earth. Matlab, today's policies would make our world 2.8 degrees hotter by the end of this century. And this is a death sentence. So imagine 2 degrees Celsius से ज़्यादा जब temperature increase हो जाएगा तो क्या हाल होगा. So when it comes to water security, water management and conservation, so India, it has got it right on many aspects when it comes to water management, from like governance to funding to innovation, but it can and must set an example for other nations. But जैसे कि बोलते हैं कि more needs to be done, so that is still a room for that. And the management of the interstate rivers, though that also needs improvement. So interstate rivers जो disputes हैं, and this is still governed by an old law. So law needs to be revised. And as for the groundwater management, just 19 states and UTs, they have the relevant legislation for management of groundwater. So ये कुछ areas हैं जहाँ पे we can work, and we have SDG 6 on ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all by 2030. That is off track, and the rate of implementation must quadruple if we really want to meet this target by 2030. So India में 4% of the world's renewable freshwater resources पाए जाते हैं to provide water security to nearly 18% of the world's population. So 18% तो वर्ल्ड की पॉपुलेशन है जो इंडिया होस्ट करता है, और ओनली 4% जो वर्ल्ड के रेन्यूएबल फ्रेश वाटर रिसोर्सेज जो इंडिया में पाए जाते हैं. तो ऑब्वियसली पॉपुलेशन जितना ज़्यादा इंक्रीज होगी, अगर हम सस्टेनेबल तरीके से विल नॉट बी मैनेजिंग द वाटर, विल नॉट बी यूटिलाइजिंग इट, सो डेफिनेटली वाटर स्ट्रेस आने वाले टाइम में इंक्रीज होगा. देयर विल बी सिचुएशंस ऑफ वाटर स्कैर्सिटी अक्रॉस द कंट्री. So a report launched by the Global Commission on Economics of Water, it shows कि world it could fall short of fresh water by 40% by 2030. So further, UN 2023 World Water Development Report, it also highlights that progress towards all the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring this target level 6, it is off track, and the rate of implementation must quadruple, so globally applicable and not just for India. So यहाँ पे different areas and suggestions दिए गए हैं, like governance में, for better governance of the water resources, India unified its ministries dealing with drinking water and sanitation and water resources. So नई मिनिस्ट्री बनाई गई बाय कोलैबोरेटिंग ऑल दीज टुगेदर, एंड दिस वाज द जल शक्ति मिनिस्ट्री। 2019 में इसको बनाया गया, एंड इसकी वजह से वी हैव सीन कि डिसीजन मेकिंग में हमें बहुत ज़्यादा हेल्प हुई है। एंड however, if we consider that water is largely, it is a state subject in India, so state list में water is there. There are areas that need better coordination between the center and states. So और ज़्यादा coordination की ज़रूरत है, and they mainly includes improving the management of interstate rivers हो गया, एंड जो लॉ है रिवाइजिंग दैट लॉ इज इम्पोर्टेंट, जो इंटरस्टेट रिवर वाटर डिस्प्यूट्स एक्ट है, इम्प्रूविंग द ग्राउंड वाटर मैनेजमेंट, जहाँ पे बहुत अभी लाइक 100% वी कांट से कि सब स्टेट्स एंड यूटीज में देयर इज अ लॉ रिगार्डिंग मैनेजमेंट ऑफ ग्राउंड वाटर। सेकेंड एरिया आ जाता है फाइनेंस का, सो विद एक्शंस लाइक इंश्योरिंग सेफली मैनेज्ड ड्रिंकिंग वाटर services to each household through the Jal Jeevan mission. So एक ये mission है, and then we have the Atal mission for rejuvenation and urban transformation, that is Amrut. So India is running some of the largest water access programs in the world. So as of 2023, overall allocation of India's water action, it is about $240 billion for the ongoing schemes and programs. So this translates into an investment of about $171 per capita. So India, it can build on this public investment by making water related projects financially attractive for the private sector. So अभी private sector का इतना presence, इतना role and participation नहीं देखने को मिल रहा है in these water conservation and management projects. So अगर इनको थोड़ा और financially attractive बना दिया जाएगा तो definitely private sector would also come forward. So उनको basically private sector को we can provide with the performance based incentives and ensuring cost recovery. थर्ड एरिया आ जाता है कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग का। सो यहाँ पे भी हमें काम करने की जरूरत है, एंड we'll first have a look इंडिया ने क्या steps लिए हैं in ensuring this. So capacity building में most of India's water related programs है, वो बोलते हैं for engaging the local stakeholders या communities in water resource management, especially in regions जहाँ पे ground water over exploited है. So ऐसा एक प्रोग्राम है अटल भूजल योजना, भूजल means ground water, so it aims at arresting the groundwater decline by engaging community in preparation for a विलेज वाटर सिक्योरिटी प्लान। सो माइक्रो लेवल पे काम करने की जरूरत है जब हम कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की बात करते हैं, एंड ऐसा हम कर भी रहे हैं। So this is highlighting the interventions that are required to not only augment the water resources but also to manage demand also. So it is not just about augmenting water resources, आप demand को भी कैसे manage कर रहे हो वो भी बहुत important role play करता है। सो जब हम माइक्रो लेवल्स के, विलेज लेवल की वाटर सिक्योरिटी प्लान्स बनाने की बात करते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली यहाँ पे आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग, आपको क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए रिगार्डिंग क्लाइमेट साइंस, सरफेस एंड ग्राउंड वाटर हाइड्रोलॉजी एंड वाटर डिमांड पैटर्न्स क्या चल रहे हैं, इफ यू रियली वांट टू हैव दिस रैशनल प्लान जो हमें एक्चुअली हेल्प करेगा। एंड फोर्थ एरिया आ जाता है डेटा एंड इंफॉर्मेशन का। सो डेटा एंड इंफॉर्मेशन में देयर हैज बीन सस्टेनेबल प्रोग्रेस इन टर्म्स ऑफ डेटा, बहुत ज्यादा अवेलेबल है कंपेयर टू प्रीवियस टाइम्स रिगार्डिंग वाटर रिसोर्सेज। लाइक इंडिया में वी हैव द इंडिया वाटर रिसोर्सेज इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम और इंडिया WRIS. It provides data pertaining to climate variables, surface water, groundwater, water quality. So we have this thing jahan pe we have the availability of data regarding water resources, and but we still need to strengthen the water data sets, initiate systems to generate information on water use and consumption to end user level तक हमारे पास ये data होना चाहिए कि water use से related and consumption से related. So this can provide more realistic scenario of कितना water available है and actual water use कितना हो रहा है. So ये हमें आगे decision making में और help कर सकता है. Last area आता है technology and innovations का. So how technology and innovation can help us here? So early on India, we adopted water efficient micro irrigation एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर के लिए. सो नेशनल मिशन ऑन माइक्रो इरिगेशन है, लॉन्च किया गया था 2010 में, व्हिच वाज सबस्यूम्ड अंडर द प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना इन 2015. So by early 2022, we see कि about 14 million hectares of irrigated area had been brought under micro irrigation. And more recently, हमने देखा sensor-based Internet of Things technologies. They have been also adopted to regulate water releases from the reservoirs and measuring the drinking water reaching the habitations. So isme water security mein these technologies and innovations are definitely going to help us. But abhi jo hame kaam karna hai, that is we need to scale it more. So ek larger scale pe isko leke jayenge to it would benefit us more. So it would be a cliche to suggest that improved water governance needs better coordination across stakeholders from the national to the local levels. India would set an example if जो हमारे building blocks है, they are highlighted above, result in speed and scale for the water sustainability. So speed and scale दोनों important है, and for a planet that is mostly water, India's leadership would be a worthwhile commitment on this Earth Day. So populations regarding demographic changes regarding हम already discuss कर चुके हैं. So this is a repeat. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have understood all the important things जो भी topics हमने detail में discuss करे through logic and rational and connectivity के through. So एक PDF link भी है जो provide किया जाता है आपको everyday basis पे in the description box, so you can go through that as well. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Thank you so much for joining us.